Good morning. It is Burgess Taylor, and today's coffee chat is going to be about self-doubt, about doubt and confidence. Having the courage to get past the blank page, whether you are journaling or writing, it's about having that fear as a creative person. It's been a while since I did a video about this. I know people who are creative in all aspects of my life, and the one thing that seems to be a core common thread is self-doubt. Now, I've suffered from it for a long time, and it comes and goes. It's always sort of underneath the surface, but it does come and go. Periodically, it rears its ugly head so loudly that I can't ignore it. Other times, I don't have too much trouble ignoring it. I'd sort of fake it till I make it. I tell myself positive things. I repeat positive affirmations. I meditate. I journal about it. Morning pages or evening pages help. But fear, fear, fear is that underlying reason that we have self-doubt. As somebody who suffers from anxiety and depression, it is sometimes quite hard to get past that fear, that self-doubt, that anxiety, because I overthink it. I'm constantly in a state of extreme anxiety over my work, that blank page, whether it's in my writing journal, my writing notebook, I should say, or if it's in my Omni journal or the Hobonichi or my sketchbook, the blog post. Don't know what it is lately about the blog, about my website, writing blog posts, that has been like a fearful thing, but I have suffered from quite a bit of self-doubt with that. So I thought I'd talk about it for a minute. Have you ever felt like, or how much you tell yourself you're doing a good job, that you are working really hard, that you're good enough, that you're talented enough, that you deserve for your work to be recognized, for your talent to be appreciated? Now, one of the problems with all of this is that, like, when you start out on your journey as a writer or your journey as an artist, for example, you're probably thinking, well, I've got this room, or I've got this corner, I've got this space, I've got this desk, I've got this laptop, I've got this sketchbook, I've got these supplies, I've got my typewriter, I've got whatever items, the tools that you think are what you need to embark on your journey creatively. And then you sit there in front of that computer screen, or with that sketchbook in front of you, or in front of your journal, your notebook, your typewriter, and you think, okay, I can do this. And you work on what you're doing. You sketch, you draw, you paint, you write by hand, or you type, and then you get this sense of fear. Maybe you shouldn't share it. Maybe nobody's going to like it. Maybe it's not really good enough. Or maybe I'm not really an artist. Maybe I'm not really a writer. I mean, you're thinking there's no point in sharing it. You don't want any pictures out there of it. Why are you even bothering to buy all of these supplies? Why are you even bothering to sit at that desk and write that book? I mean, it's scary, especially when you get to a point where your path requires you to spend money on yourself, or to ask others to spend money on your work. And you have that, I mean, that self-doubt, and then there comes the guilt. The guilt where if you when you feel like you're really not talented enough, then you think, okay, Maybe I was just, it's in the artist way, it's called the imposter syndrome, where you feel like an imposter. And the more guilt and fear you feel, the worse that gets. Um, I mean, because sometimes, like I said, you're faking it till you make it. So you're pretending that you're doing well, that you're very talented, that you tell yourself, I am very talented, to subdue that fear. Pitch your creativity to yourself, much less anybody else. But when you're being creative, if you're creating a piece of work, whether it's a novel or short story or poetry or a piece of art, a watercolor painting or an acrylic painting or a sketch, underneath the surface, and that in your mind, these thoughts are racing and you're freaking out because you're thinking nobody is really want to see this, and they're just saying it looks good, or they're just telling me an artist. And then you go through periods of time where you don't have time to create. When you don't have time to create, if you're not creating art, does that still make you an artist? If you're not writing, does that still make you a writer? Because writers write, artists create. So if you're not creating, are you still an artist? Are you still someone who is talented? Are you still an artist if you don't create? We all have rough patches. We all have periods of time where we get super busy, especially if art or writing is not your full-time position, job. If it's not your full-time job, if we are doing art in our spare time, or writing in our spare time, because real life interferes sometimes. Real life happens. So if you are working outside of the home and it's not in a job that is your hobby, your passion, your art, your writing, then sometimes those real life things interfere. So you're not creating art. But what is art? What is art? Art could be coloring with your child at the table. Art could be a doodle. Art could be putting on your makeup. Art could be any number of things. What defines you as an artist, I think, is an inner thing. I am a writer because I write, but I'm also a writer because writing is something I am passionate about. I have to do to remain sane. Now, there are periods of time when I don't write, when I take a break from it, when I feel burned out, when I need some space from it. And during those off times, I read, I draw, I color, I do a great deal of downtime stuff that isn't writing, and I journal about it. I ask myself questions about what it is that's bothering me. And I don't do this every day. I do it so often to kind of push my mind back towards the writing zone. When people say that writer's block or artist block is a farce, that it's not real, but it is real. Why you have it is based on fear. And the longer you procrastinate about creating art, creating words, creating music, the easier it gets to not do it. The bigger the fear gets because you've allowed it to become bigger. When I think about fear, when I'm in that moment of fear, I'm not recognizing it as much as I ought to. But there are some times when it will hit me, especially now that I've been through the Arts Way, and now that I'm doing it again as a 12-month program. But the first time I went through it as a 12-week program, and it took me, I think it was 13 or 14 weeks to get through it because real life things happen. But once you recognize that it's fear that is causing you to procrastinate, that it's fear that causes you to step away from it, that it's fear that paralyzes you when you pick up that pen or you pick up that pencil, when you open that sketchbook, when you open that notebook, when you open that project on Scrivener or in Word, that fear is blocking you from doing that creative work. It's funny because now I recognize it for what it really is. Self-doubt comes from fear. The procrastination comes from fear. So I ask myself, what's one thing you can do? One small thing you can do that will make you feel brave and courageous. And maybe I draw a smiley face. Maybe I draw sun. Maybe if it's a cloudy day, I draw a cloud and some raindrops. Maybe I write my name. Maybe I type one word, one easy word, the, and, but, however, any word you want. You could type the end. Even if it's not the end, you could type the end and see how typing that phrase makes you feel. And if typing that phrase makes you feel good, then what do you need to do to get to the end? Well, you have to write. You have to draw. You have to color. You have to paint. I don't have any sage advice except to say that faking it till you make it works to an extent. But the biggest thing is to have the courage to take a step back and to remember that you can allow yourself to do what it is you need to do with your creative pursuits. You can embrace that creativity. You can even embrace the blank page. Make it work for you. That blank page is a new beginning. It's a new start. It's a way to make yourself seen, yourself heard. What do you want to write on that blank page? What do you want to draw on that blank page? Don't worry about whether you are or aren't a real artist or are or aren't a real writer. Don't worry about whether you do or don't have talent. I think those are subjective. What could you do with that blank page? And some of the problem lies within this perfection thing. Our first draft of anything most likely is not going to be perfect. When you read a book that's already been published, it's been edited more than one time, most likely. When you're looking at a piece of art, normally it's somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, and there are ways to fix things. And it's okay if your art looks different than somebody else's. It's okay if your journal page isn't perfect. We all make mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn. If I never made a mistake, I'd never learn. I've been improving my watercolor technique because some people have been constructively critical and explained to me that this is why the paper has that rough edge. This is what causes that. Or if you can do this, or if you, and I'm learning and I'm like, oh wow, now I know. And then I improve. And then I watch, I read about how to, and I improve. And with each improvement I see, when I watch myself, when I do process videos for journaling, when I watch myself, I see where I make the mistakes. Now when I'm in the middle of doing it, I can't see it. But when I'm watching those process videos, I see my mistakes. And I go, oh, 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 oh. And I can see. And so sometimes now I take notes. So how I edit videos for those, how I look at videos have actually changed. I'm more patient. I'm improving myself because how I do that is changing. Not only my editing skills with videos, but my actual process of creating art, drawing and watercoloring and things like that. Perspective. Taking my thumb and I'm looking. I'm holding the pen out and I'm looking. Yes, sometimes I have time to create as much as I want, and other times I don't have enough time to create nearly enough of what I want. Some days I don't want to create because the fear sets in. Some days I wonder why anybody would want to read or watch or look at or any of my work. I feel like an imposter and I feel guilty because I'm not doing the housework or I'm not out at a regular job. at a quote unquote real job. It's all subjective. It's perspective. Creativity, helping to inspire and motivate other people to be creative, is a part of my calling. It's one of my passions. It's one of my gifts. But if I don't have enough of that for myself, if I cannot inspire and motivate myself to be creative, I cannot do it for other people. You cannot get water out of a dried well. You cannot get water out of an empty well. I have to refill my own well in order to help refill others, to help them refill their own wells, I guess I should say. I'm going to ask that you bear with me over the next few weeks. I'm going to do the supplies journal series. I'm doing the outlining series on Wednesdays, and we still have the coffee chats. But I'm in the process of changing things up so that this works better for me, so that I can be more creative, so that I can inspire more, so that my videos are better. Because the last month and a half or so, on and off, I felt that imposter syndrome. I felt that burnout and overwhelmed. I've been looking at like the thumbs down and wondering if, well, so many people viewed it, but not very many people liked it or gave me a thumbs up. So maybe it really wasn't that good, and things like that. So I just ask that you be patient with me because I am revamping things. I have been trying to for a good while now. Idea was there, and I had some ideas, but some of it was working and some of it wasn't going to work, and I was pressuring myself to make it work, and you can't make it work if it's not going. So I just ask you to be patient with me, and we will get through this. I will have a lot better content. But if you are suffering from self-doubt, from burnout, from imposter syndrome, from fear and procrastination, let me know if you want. We could talk about it. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.